Okay, so the very first anime review I'll be doing is on basically the very first anime I ever got into. So it's kinda holds a special place in my heart. Now, the anime I've chosen is Pokemon. And by Pokemon, I'm referring only to the first 8 seasons and the movies. And in other words, basically a stuff dubbed by 4Kids. So, the next video will actually cover the Pokemon USA dub and how it's different. But anyways, let's get started. Question 1. Is the opening left intact or dubbed in English? Well, let's see. Here's the English theme we get.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch.
Here's the Japanese song. Now, does that sound anything alike? Because I don't think it does. So I'm going to give it a big no. Next, is the background music left intact? Well, early on they kept a good amount of it, but they only kept like 75% average. And later on they started changing more and more music. Not to mention the fact that the first 4 movies did not keep the music intact. So I really can't give them that point. Because, like I said, they started off keeping, even at the beginning they weren't keeping all of it intact. Or enough to get points for it. And later on they started getting worse and worse, so I can't do that. Can't give them the point there. Sorry guys. Question 3. Free of sloppy or unnecessary edits? Well, let's see. They constantly erase signs for no reason. They even erase text that's already written in English. And among other things, they do stuff that has no real reason at all. I mean, did you see that they even edited a badge case? Dogasu went all crazy over it on his site, but truth is, I can't give them any credit for that because it's a really bad edit. And by bad I mean stupid. And in truth, I highly doubt that anyone was telling them they had to do this. The TV networks weren't asking them to edit the Japanese food, so why do it? I mean, is having a rice ball scene such a bad thing? I really don't think so. I highly doubt anyone would complain. Anyways, question 4. Free of heavy Americanization? That goes well with the third question. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, question 3 is no. Anyways, for 4, well, let's take a look. They basically went out of their way to digitally edit the rice ball into a sandwich, which of course has been complained about for not making much sense. But nonetheless, there's also, if you remember in that primate episode, that Brock was constantly calling this food that looked clearly like rice balls donuts, and it was almost to a point where they were so horribly done that it was obviously not a donut. And in truth, they went out of their way to call them donuts, though. So I really can't give them points for that. So question 4, no. Question 5, is an uncut version available to the public in some way? Well, I haven't seen any, have you? So, no. Question 6, good voices. Now this one's gonna get Rotten Tomatoes thrown at me constantly for saying this, but I did not like the original cast of Pokemon. And yes, I know you all loved it and even started a terrible campaign against replacing them, which in truth I fully and utterly objected to and ridiculed without any hesitation. So I should point that out. I am not a Sobra supporter and never was. But anyways, thing is that normally with a dub that's long running like this, or like Dragon Ball Z, the cast usually gets better at their roles. But in Pokemon, I can't really say that because at first the cast was actually pretty good at their roles. But then over time they actually got worse and worse. Like at first Ash sounded like a boy. He sounded legitimately like a boy who was 10 years old. But then as this series continued, by the time they got to Advanced Generation, Ash basically had a much higher pitched voice and almost sounded like a girl. And of course May, who I don't know why everyone thinks she was such a well-chosen voice. Fact is that she sounds like Ash's mom. That's the truth. I'm not gonna lie. She does. You can deny it all you want, but she sounded like Ash's mom. Get over it. While as James, at first, well, after being replaced with Ted Lewis, once Eric Stewart started, he basically had a slightly goofy, but at least was able to act voice. But then by the time they got to the later seasons, he was only able to be a goofball with a flamboyantly gay voice, which in truth, I do not find appropriate. Not saying there's anything against gay people, because you know that I am a very strong supporter of gay marriage and all that stuff. But I do not think it's appropriate to make fun of gays or to imply characters that are straight as gay. And you're wondering, but we never know if James is gay or straight. Actually, we do, because you see, there's this Pokemon manga out there, and it's different from the story, but it's got some similar characters, and Jesse and James are in fact characters in this manga. And although it has ended, at the end of the manga, it reveals that Jesse and James actually got married. With James basically with Jesse having James's baby, so that kind of implies that James is quite obviously straight. So yeah, I really can't give them points for that one, and obviously Meowth's Brooklyn accent is not appropriate at all. In truth, if he sounded like a talking cat, which you'll have to figure out how that would sound, that's one thing, but having him sound Brooklyn is just stereotyping and in a bad way. So, good voices? No. Question 7. Script handled well and free of obnoxious jokes added in, excessively bad translations, and otherwise unwanted rewrites? Ooh. Well, thing is that earlier on they kept the script, but later on in the show, they were not translating it very closely. Basically everything Team Rocket said was a bad pun of some sort. So I'm sorry guys, but I can't give you the points for that. So question 7, no. Question 8, all episodes dubbed, aired, and released to the public so far? No episodes skipped, merged, or otherwise missing? Well, although I'm not going to take off points for skipping that Earthquake episode in Advanced Generation, because even Japan never aired that episode, and I'm not going to take off points for the Porygon episode either, because, well, Japan didn't give them that one at all and only aired it once, so no point. I'm not going to take off points there. But 4Kids did skip some episodes. You see, thing is that they skipped the Dratini episode and an episode about Jinx later on. Now, thing is that I know the reason they skipped the episodes, but it doesn't change the fact that they skipped them. Because they could easily have released them on DVD or at least maybe had them be online, but they didn't. They never did, not even with edits made. They never showed either of these two episodes, and truth be told, I have to penalize them for that. No excuses, guys. You have to show all the episodes that are given to you. Especially when the Dratini episode had Ash catching a bunch of Tauros that they never really explained in the dub. So yeah, no points for that. Question 9. Free of name changes. Sorry, but can't give you that either, and we all know that the name changes are present. And yes, I know there's something, it's in the game and they're just being consistent, but still, they're the ones basically working with Nintendo on the name changes, so I really can't give them points for that. Sorry guys. Now, question 10. Overall, is it watchable? Now, this is the one question that I will actually give them yes for, because, in truth, it was a very enjoyable show. First season, even with all the changes they did, it was still able to work. The music replacement actually fitted. And the dialogue, they basically didn't throw in that many bad puns. And in truth, when they did throw in a pun, it actually was cute to do it once in a while. So I'm actually going to give them points for it, because in the long run, they managed to make it a huge success. And in truth, even when the later seasons were around, the sad thing is that it was still their best dub on TV, which kind of says something. But thing is, I'm going to give them that point. So, with that in mind, the overall score in the end is 1 out of 10. In other words, this dub is pretty bad, but even so, it still managed to be an overwhelming and probably undeserving success. So that's the review for the 4Kids dub of Pokemon. And by the way, when I did that review, I was not taking into account Pokemon Chronicles, because I'm gonna be honest. As far as I'm concerned, the Chronicles dub is a whole separate dub on its own due to the horrible quality of it. And in truth, it's on par with One Piece as far as dub-wise. So be glad I didn't include that. So anyways, that's my analysis